Sure, Saturday mornings were sacred, but what about Saturday nights? A floating rom-com followed by The Twilight Zone meets Gilligan's Island. Who wouldn't fall in love with that? I'm Victor, straight out of the Gen Experience. One Saturday night that to this day remains a mystery of only breadcrumbs, leading all the way back to 1980 and a 3-hour super event you had to be there to believe. Today, only quiet whispers exist on the famed but lost to time Fantasy Island Love Boat crossover, a conspiracy cover-up for the ages, but mostly the Gen Experience. Weekends meant staying up late. After the Muppets, after Hee Haw, we live vicariously through B-list or fading celebrities, finding cheesy happiness while cruising into a possible hell, where if dreams seemed too good to be true, they probably were. Grab your favorite snack and return to Fantasy Island via the Pacific Princess. On a 1980 Saturday night of appointment TV, a forgotten crossover event took place that few remember, and others believe is only a fantasy. This episode began as something slightly different, but when doing research for my stroll down the Saturday night TV lineup memory lane, I uncovered something I had never known before, and by the end of the week, I was convinced someone was working hard to keep it that way. A Love Boat Fantasy Island conspiracy, a well-kept secret that I want to blow open, and maybe, just maybe get some of you online sleuths to help find the answer, or more specifically, the evidence. The Love Boat was on for 9 seasons. Top that streaming. The show was a ratings juggernaut during season 4, but continued to have success throughout its run, even with the loss of a major cast member, the addition of new ones, filming on location, and real cruises to exotic ports of call, cocaine addictions, and even 4 TV movies airing either for season premieres or during Sweeps Week. Is that even a thing anymore? Easily one of the most famous Love Boat crossovers was with another Aaron Spelling powerhouse. No one needs to be reminded of the TNA TV of Charlie's Angels and their much-loved crossover with the Pacific Princess to introduce Tiffany Wells to the Townsend Detective Agency. You can find this episode no problem. Everyone seems to know about it, and it runs often on local antenna TV. Even with the annoying Bosley, it's a fun-loving 2-parter that joined the casts of both shows and added a few thrills to the otherwise calm waters of the Love Boat. But that crossover isn't why we're here. I began to find vague references to a Love Boat crossover with Fantasy Island while researching my original direction for this show. Catching a little blurb here, a comment there, I was intrigued to dig a little deeper. Then I uncovered a short Reddit post as well as a separate essay that gave me a suitable summary and a starting off point. It is these items that clarify the crossover was unique, as not one show where characters from another join in, but instead a curious continual storyline with one of the celebrity guests via a photograph. With these light details in hand, I continue to investigate. The first thing I come across is the TV Guide ad for the crossover event itself. I learned of the date, the length of the once-in-a-lifetime occasion, as well as the exciting marketing for the promised unforgettable night of TV. This ad seems to add credence to the limited description I had previously found online. Loni Anderson is the star in both Love Boat and Fantasy Island that night. There is a pre-Love Boat episode of Fantasy Island before the conclusion episode after a 90-minute Love Boat involving the same character of Loni's. It's a total 3-hour event. Now, understanding that the evening was a 3-part event between 2 different shows, I had to experience it for myself. Amazingly hard to find at first, I had to locate the title, season, and episode numbers, of course. Even then, it was laborious to sift through and find the Love Boat episode on YouTube. I don't know why, but I felt it was being kept from me, so I kept looking. At the same time, I started to look for images of the episodes and what I knew from the brief synopsis that I had read. And although I began to find a couple of stills from the Love Boat episode, I came across a strange piece of evidence from the description I'd found. It was an image of a video of Mr. Rourke and Tattoo, and Tattoo had what looked to be like a photo, just like described in the crossover account I had read. Clicking on the link to the video, I found a just over 2-minute tag at the very end of an episode called Possessed. This was the 30-minute pre-Love Boat Fantasy Island episode from that very special night back in '80. Possessed was a standalone episode to fill the extra 30 minutes created by the night's event. A little blonde girl whose mother takes her to Rourke to see what ails her. Demonic possession, of course. This is Fantasy Island. Even Mr. Rourke mentions that the case is way too dangerous to allow any other guests to the island. This, of course, gels with a shorter show format, but it was that end of the episode, this short tag that seemed to prove it was leading us into the next show, the next part of the evening extravaganza.
You know what it is?
Of course I know what it is. The Love Boat. Is that your fantasy? To take a trip on the Love Boat?
Oh yes. All these beautiful girls, the moon at night, the ocean. Boss, you think you can get me on board the love boat?
Oh, not sure about that. But I make you this promise. Sometime soon, very soon perhaps, I'll bring the Love Boat to you.
So as you heard, Tattoo shared his fantasy, and Rourke's response was that he would bring the Love Boat to him as we begin the credits for the 90-minute episode of Love Boat. With the photo of the ship matching the accounts online, I now know that the description given about a second photograph from the end of the night's Love Boat would not only make sense, but had to be true. They would connect the two episodes to form the crossover, effectively allowing them to seamlessly continue the Loni Anderson Love Boat story onto the full Fantasy Island episode afterwards. Still having difficulty finding a video of the specific Love Boat, I began to search harder for a still of the would-be photograph that would be the link. It was nowhere to be found. The image of Rourke and Tattoo kept coming up, but all I found were a handful of shots from the Secretary to the Stars segment of the Love Boat story of the 90-minute episode. Loni Anderson in disguise as her secretary. No picture of the Fantasy Island photograph as promised from the sources found on the web. But at least I knew the episode must be there. It, like the short Fantasy Island tag, would show Vicky pulling out the photo, not unlike Tattoo on the island, to help connect the next part of the infamous crossover, providing the connection between the episodes aired that night. This is where it gets odd. My tech skills failing me, I found out that the Love Boat full episodes are all on Pluto TV. Well, that's free, and I just can't find the right episode on YouTube right now. I'm getting desperate. There it is. Pluto TV, and it has the Love Boat channel. Now to confirm and look for season 4. Wait, what's this? There are no season 4 episodes on Pluto. Whoa. This couldn't get any stranger, and the word conspiracy was starting to creep into my head. Checking and double checking both the episode title and number, Pluto does not have this episode. Well, now what? Well, a friend tells me that Paramount Plus has the Love Boat. Okay, I don't subscribe, but I'll just do a free trial through Amazon. Boom, there she blows. The Love Boat, that is. All seasons. So I navigate to season 4 of the Love Boat and look for Episode 5, Episode 6, Episode 8. That's right, there is no Episode 7. Well, not listed on Paramount Plus. Now, I know there is something keeping us from learning the truth, or at least from seeing this whole night of TV the same way it was shown 44 years ago. So now I'm just Googling the full seasons and the episode numbers and the titles and looking under the category video. Well, damn, there it is. The number, the title, it's the Love Boat episode 7 from season 4. Seeing this will show me the connective tissue between the shows that evening and prove there was this crossover that hasn't been seen in decades the way it was once aired. Where does it say streaming? Paramount Plus. Reinforcing my cover up here, I think, was my free trial the firewall? Why don't they want me to see this? So I do what any sane person would. It certainly wasn't password sharing or anything to get the full complement of episodes. That's neither here nor there. When I finally log in, there it was, immediately appearing where it should have been earlier. Season 4, Episode 7, 75 minutes. Not commercial consideration, of course. You couldn't get this with a free trial. Talk about cheap. But this was it. The account description of the episode where Loni Anderson's character leaves the ship not only alone, not having found love, but miserable. With only one choice left, this is where I would see the scene I had read about. Vicky, with her own picture of Fantasy Island in hand, would run off to meet the crew to tell her what was happening. The last moment before Loni's actress character from the show arrives to meet Mr. Rourke. That last piece related to that little bumper of Tattoo in his photograph was getting me excited. Now it would all make sense, and I could finally see the ending that would have led into the following episode of Fantasy Island that was rumored to continue the story of Kim Holland, the character of Loni Anderson. The movie star looking for love, but never believing anyone could love her for her and not for what she was, a Hollywood superstar. Oh, but if these are the movies that made you a superstar, yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to know who I was either. Here it was, Betty White, the Village People. Let's just fast forward. Here we go. The reveal of Loni's character, the heartache, Wait, what's happening? She is walking down the stairs arm in arm with a man, kissing the captain, and off she goes. She isn't miserable. What we got was happy as a clam Jennifer Marlowe. Loni Anderson. Kim Holland. Leaving happy. She found a man who loved her for her and not her body. Of work. And what's this? Where's Vicky rushing to the crew with a photo explaining that Kim has only one chance left to go here, Fantasy Island, to see if Rourke can do what the Love Boat failed to? No. We got the Village People in a short, fun bit having some good, clean, gay fun with the captain in the last moment laugh for the celebrity guest as the cast gather around for the last joke. No picture, no lead-in, no promised unhappiness. At this point, I'm stunned. I have to double check this is happening. After a lot of searching and learning, I finally find both the Love Boat and Fantasy Island episodes on YouTube. Full episodes. First, the full Love Boat episode. And even here, it ends exactly the same way I just saw it. Then I quickly watched the Fantasy Island episode. It's called The Love Doctor. This season 4 episode sees Kim Holland, the character, arrive in identical costume from the last time we just saw her on the ship. Tattoo immediately recognizes her and allows for Rourke's exposition that her fantasy is to have absolute anonymity, therefore to find love that she is assured can be with someone who does not love her for what she is, but who she is. It makes sense and jives with how I understood the immediately preceding episode of The Love Boat was to have ended, but not the one that's in syndication. Then it hit me. Syndication was to blame. Was it meant to be this way all along? Was the conspiracy created from the simple inability to assure viewers could watch both shows' episodes back to back in reruns? Was it that the Love Boat could not do 90-minute episodes in syndication and had to make cuts or changes? Were they concerned about the bad press they would get, showing one of the passengers leaving so unhappy, unfulfilled without the rest of the context? So much so that they had to film an alternate ending? What did she do with the guy she just walked off the ship with?
It's so good of you to accept me as a guest on such short notice, right off the cruise ship.
Oh, we are lucky to have you, Miss Holland.
You're lucky that we had the last minute cancellation.
I want to know, and more importantly, I want to see the ending I know is out there. It must exist. All in all, I can only assume it was syndication that killed the Secretary to the Star segment of the Loni Anderson Love Boat episode, and in turn neutered the transition into the crossover with Fantasy Island, as there would be no guaranteed viewers would watch them together. Was the Village People's light-hearted happy ending designed for syndication? If so, where's the original? To note, when finding the Loni Anderson Fantasy Island episode, it was the full season 4 episode 5 title, The Love Doctor / The Pleasure Palace / Possessed. As we know, Love Doctor undoubtedly shares the storyline continued from the season 4 episode 7 Love Boat that had originally led into the episode when it first aired. However, the episode, although titled correctly, does not contain the Possessed segment. Remember, that was the 30-minute standalone episode prior to the 90-minute Love Boat that included the tag of Tattoo sharing his fantasy and the photo of the ship to Rourke. It never went to syndication. When it was time for reruns, the episode only airs the Loni Anderson segment, along with the Radar O'Reilly's Pleasure Palace, instead of all 3 stories. That means you cannot find Possessed and watch the full episode of that pre-game to the special Love Boat. But luckily, that 2+ minute bumper at the end of the episode being available helps to show the existence of this 3-hour epic event. With that being the case, it stands to reason that the original 1980s Love Boat episode that would segue into the crossover event had an alternate ending created for syndication, to play in reruns without any required watching of Fantasy Island or even the Possessed segment that would hint that Fantasy Island had any correlation with the Love Boat tie-in. Ultimately, that means that Rourke never saw through on Tattoo's fantasy. Maybe he is the devil. Oh, and if you're wondering, Loni Anderson's Kim Holland did find love. Rourke had sent her on the Jungle Cruise. No, not that Jungle Cruise, but she did find love with a Jungle Doctor. But I don't know about you. I just think it would have been more exciting if her character came full circle and we discover that she was the little blonde girl in the Possessed segment earlier in the evening, all grown up after her exorcism. But That's the romantic in me. In the end, you have to have seen the event on November 22nd, 1980. After that, the hour limitations of both shows excised some of the content in what I believe was a brilliantly executed plan, included an alternate happy ending to Loni Anderson's character to alleviate any sad ending for the Pacific Princess, effectively leaving no trace of the connection to either of them when watched in syndication separately. Standalone watching today might make you wonder, and if you're looking for details, the truth of the matter, or even some of the rumored footage, you're going to have to look a lot deeper than me. As for me, I want to see it. As a product of my generation, I want to know. Where is the footage, or even an image of Vicky in that photograph of Fantasy Island? Someone must have it, and I hope I can leave it to all of you for credible evidence, or undeniable truth of what I am saying here. I want to see Loni leave that boat unhappy. I want to see Vicky run up telling the crew that Kim Holland is planning to go to Fantasy Island, and I want to see that photo of the island to prove that this was not all a fantasy. I hope you enjoyed this little Gen Experience experiment, and we'll be back next week with some of your favorite toys from an era that gave us everything worth remembering, like the Gen Experience. Show me you love this with a like, and stop thinking about it and press subscribe for more great content. Thanks for watching, and until next time.